All right, we'll go ahead and get started. First up, we'll just do discussions for August council meetings. Anything to question on the meeting next week?
I didn't look them up on the map, but those two parcels that we're gonna discuss rezoning, where are they?
Jim Conlon's, so it's right, yeah.
Okay. Access easement agreement on the first one, where's that at?
We've kind of been kicking that down the curb and copying it for each time until we can actually put it on there.
We're waiting for some information from Steve. How convenient.
Well, it's not urgent. I was just wondering where it was.
I'll catch him in the morning.
Yeah, right.
Casey's at 5:30.
Bump 7, we'll see you there. 7, I'm already at work then. Never mind. All right, the department head discussions. Stacy, I know you're just back, but you've had some activity since you've been
I
back.
have had some activity, mainly just stuff we're working on fixing. The biggest thing, golf simulator broken.
Sorry about that drive.
The CPU is completely, I don't know, something's wrong with the CPU. Sent it in today, so hopefully I get it back. I don't know, in a week. I don't know for sure. Without 2 days in for sure, however long.
What's the usage been?
Well, it was being used when it happened, so that's good. It's only been a few a month. It hasn't been anything. I think,
expected.
yeah, and we very much did. Sorry. But yeah, so obviously the hope is that it builds up again once it gets cooler outside and once it works properly. So at least we said we wanted all the kinks to come out of it during the slow time, so I
Mission
guess this is one of the kinks.
Is that under warranty still then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so we shouldn't have to pay
Fine.
for anything, so. And then also on Monday when I got back, I was informed that the little spigot behind the pitcher's mound on Spiegel, where they connect the hose, is broken. Semi-pro tournament starts this weekend, so we're trying to do everything we can to get it fixed as fast as possible. I will be bailing out of this meeting as soon as my phone texts, because there's a gentleman coming to look at it here. He said a little after 6, whatever that means. So I'm hoping that he's able to fix it. I had Public Works look at it and they laughed at me and said it will not be fixed by Saturday. So I'm really hoping that's not the answer I get when I meet him. So fingers crossed on that one. And then Kelly Oaks Park, they did start everything with the multi-use trail. They got all the trees down. They have had some issues with grading per engineering specs, but it sounds like they met with engineers today, kind of did a walkthrough. They needed to they're not able to cut in some places as deep as the engineering stated they needed to. So they're gonna fall short with fill, but it sounds like they found a place that they can grab dirt from. So we should, as of right now, should be able to continue to move forward, so.
They can't dig deep
Hopefully
enough?
that-
They can't.
Yeah, it sounds like
There's a
they
rock
can,
or
yeah,
rock.
yeah. Well, so I
Interesting.
don't think they thought they'd hit rock,
Yeah.
because of when they dug by the parking lot. But it sounds like when they did the short loop, that little cross where the short loop was, it sounds like they might have hit either rock or something hard that they weren't able to get fill dirt from, so. But yeah, so they're working. I tried to get an ETA, I don't have one. I think it just all depends on how it all turns out, so. But yeah, other than that, everything downstairs going well. Last week at day camp, so we're getting there. Co-ed softball starting this week. So that's all ready to rock and roll, staying busy.
Is this complaints about the trees they burned?
I never heard
At
anything.
beanbags last night, a couple people that live over there were complaining too. Burned all the trees and
I quite honestly didn't know they burned the trees. Was that last week?
They've been,
must have done it.
since they started taking them down,
They've been burning.
down by the tracks.
Okay.
There's still a bunch in a stack over there
Yeah,
too, so.
yeah, there's,
Probably just burning the tops.
They're just burning the
That's what it
tops. I've seen it. Yeah, they're taking the trunks.
That's what I thought.
Do you want to provide an update on the REAP
Oh, yeah, so we went to Dubuque County on Monday to do, I guess, a mini presentation to be able to get to the next phase of a grant writing for the REAP that we're writing for the pavilion for Kelly Oaks. We did pass, get submitted for being able to write that next phase. So I reached out to Trisha. She is in the process of writing the grant for that. It's for up to 75,000. If we get that for the pavilion, I mean, there's gonna be some money we need to raise, but we're getting close, so.
Anything been raised yet?
Not specifically, besides obviously some other costs we won't have to do as far as like the sign for Mighty M. I've talked to Piast Days Committee. I believe we'll be getting a good size check from them to go towards Kelly Oaks. The way I did it the last, depending on how some of these turn out, right? Like does the multi-use trail go above budget, that kind of stuff. But based on budget now with just fluff numbers, if we got the $75,000 grant with the $100,000 we would do for next July 1 for our new fiscal year, we'd be at like 498. So we would need, I mean, there's still like engineering costs and stuff that would be above that, but as far as the 500,000 was the guesstimate for the pavilion, if that is true, we'd be close. Like we just need to raise essentially the engineering and the on top of that fees. So no, we have not had a lot of money raised, but we're not. If we get the 75,000, we're close. But yes, we need to go out. I need to talk to Dubuque, or not Dubuque, DePaco, to see if anything happened there. Casey's, now that we have more money, I was gonna write their grant again. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some stuff we have to do.
Is there a kind of an action plan as far as getting out and reaching out to other donors as far as the park project as a whole?
Yeah, action plan, no. We ended up canceling the last park meeting in, what was it, July. And that's when I was gonna discuss it. So the hope was to kind of talk about it this meeting and have a better action plan moving forward. So I did create like a QR code with PayPal, like to start being able to have donations and that kind of stuff. So we'll start splashing that up in different places. I have a sign that we're putting up in front of the center, just hasn't gotten put up yet. And then for our special events and stuff, we'll start advertising it at those for sure. But yeah, there's definitely more discussion as far as hitting businesses.
Yeah, I just think the corporate is gonna be where the chunk is gonna come from and, you know, hitting the bigger companies first. So we get to them in a chance. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions for Stacy?
I just want to say she did a very nice job presenting too.
Thanks. I heard that last night.
Excellent.
I put it on Facebook too.
Fix the hose.
Yeah, 2 minutes ago.
Get out, get out,
We'll see.
get out of here.
It was good timing.
Thanks, Stacy.
Chief.
So the only thing I want to bring up, Piasta Days, that's coming up. So we're doing a different route. With Stacy being gone, I figured she wanted to chirp in a little bit on that, but I can kind of fill in. We're going to do a different route this year for the run. Instead of blocking Birds Road, you know, the main artery of Piasta, we decided we're going to go, it's going to be the same roads. It's going to start here, and then it'll go to down Bryn, down Piasta Community Parkway, up Bryn, down Leslie, and then on to Adrena. So we're gonna have that road open by then on the Cox Springs. What the nice thing about that is it's gonna take less people for that. It'll be 2 police cars on Cox Springs. They will still be able to turn into, go where they need to go, as in if they wanna go to Darkbird, or the coffee shop, they can go around Thunder Hills Road and then back onto Uliana if they need to get up towards Birds. It's just a short section of Cox Springs that will be shutting down for just that run portion. And then up by Uliana, that's where they turn around and go back. And they go back to Piasta Community Parkway and up. So we're gonna try that. It should free up more help, you know, volunteers, firefighters. The route should be, in my eyes, better, safer, instead of having it on Birds. You know, when it shuts down basically the main artery, we get a lot of complaints on that. So especially with the housing, like where Marcy lives, like they can't get out, or it's very hard for them to get out. So trying something different, and maybe if this is a success, we'll continue using that.
It's basically just a short section of Cox Springs.
Yes,
Up to
very short.
Juliana and
Yep.
back there.
Correct.
Adrena. Yeah.
Yep, correct.
Yep.
Parade route, instead of going to, last year they went through NICC, it's gonna be the old way again, down Birds, north to Birds, all the way up to Birds, down down Bryn, and then finish it, yes, Community Parkway. Yep. So I don't know if we need to, ask for your guys' permission to shut down roads on, it's gonna be in my report on Tuesday. So just know that we're looking to shut down roads, so. The rest of my report, we had a lot of construction, not a lot. I had some construction projects that some completed. We put a closet in the police department. You know that dead space when you walk in the front door, off to the left, there was just a little bit of chairs sitting there. So I utilized that space, put up a wall and reused a door that was in there, and made a closet. And you'll see the pictures in my report. I put a bunch of pictures in the report.
Nice.
So you'll see that coming up Tuesday. I think it's a great space, just completed it. Just extra space for us. It's nice. We're gonna get gutters on in the next week or so. Yeah.
We're on that.
So that'll be on the Vestibule area, so that'll happen within the next.
And there's a little story behind that because when I was working out of there, I was coming out in the winter months and the water was just.
It only bothered her.
Workplace hazard.
That's right.
He goes down.
Safety first.
That's right.
Unless it gets in front of profits.
City has profit.
Well, not.
Well, with the ice sliding down, it's a little
Yes.
safer to have gutters on with the ice sliding down in the winter time. Put it that way.
And I can't understand why it was never put on there.
I don't understand it either, but
So.
here we are.
anyway,
So,
But thank you.
yeah, so. I can't think of anything else in my report. You guys have it, but we'll talk about it Tuesday, but those are the main things.
That's good. Thanks, chief. Chief.
My department head or my item C?
You are item C.
Which role am I?
Well, and just a little,
Unless you'd like to be promoted to department head.
well, a little bit of background on this is that at one of the work sessions, you asked if I could reach out to Steve and have him come here and talk a little bit about what they could do to help with the position. So
I have the floor.
you have the floor.
So at B&K, we have 9 building inspectors. They're mostly in the Des Moines metro area, but we have a couple in our Coralville office. We found from our perspective, it's more profitable if you've got a density of people that need service. I mean, hiring somebody full-time to only work part-time doesn't really pay. And you guys are kind of faced with that too. And a lot of the fast-growing communities in any metro area face this. Do we get our own building inspector? Do we consult out? You know, you guys have used ECA, I'm sure, for forever. And they have, you know, they've served the area pretty well. I know the little bit of context of why we're here is looking at to get your own. And so having hired several of them myself and learned a little bit about how you get them trained and licensed and authorized to do that, they have to be working with somebody to learn that. So and that brought this to me, you know, I started thinking about this, you know, what could we do to help you? What could someone else do to help you for that matter? I don't know how ECI will respond to them not being your building inspector. Maybe they're fine, maybe they're not. Maybe they could help you. But if they're going to be losing a client, I suspect they're not going to be overly motivated to help you. But it's certainly an option. What we could do is our closest big building inspector client to here is Marshalltown. So we do all the building inspections there. And our guys they put more miles on their truck than I do, bouncing around. So what I was thinking that could be a good option is with what's the young man's name? What you thinking about?
Brennan.
Brennan. You know, he could partner up with a guy that we've got by the name of Jake Spratt, who serves Marshalltown and some other small towns, but the lion's share of what he does happens in Marshalltown. And maybe we have Jake come up here and help Brennan a day a week, 2 days a week, whatever it is driving with something that makes sense for him to come up here. And maybe we have Brennan go down to Marshalltown with some similar frequencies. Build a relationship, gain that knowledge, have a backup. I mean, one of the things that we found with building inspectors is people do want to go on vacation. and people want to have, need buildings inspected when that happens. So having a little bit of redundancy there, however you provide that, is important. So maybe having that relationship be built up would help you guys, could help us. Maybe we borrow Brennan, occasionally if we need to, and you back charge us, or however that would work. But regardless, he needs training. He's a young man. There's certainly some certifications you need to become a building inspector. Electrical is the hardest one that I found. We tend to pay a little bit more for that, but some of the plumbing and some of the other things that have to happen. They don't have to have them all, but they have to have an association with somebody that does. So, from a dollars and cents standpoint, I don't think you set the goal, in my opinion, to have him have them all right away. It's a big ask, but there's a couple that are easier to obtain than others, and go after those, get those certifications, rely upon someone else to help with those other certifications till he's able to get to the point of being able to pass that test. And I'll tell you, this isn't to scare it away, but that electrical one, we've had to send the last two inspectors that we've hired, we've had to send them out to Colorado to a week-long because they were taking the test and failing. And we found this organization out in Colorado that really prepares, they both passed after coming back from that. But for us, we've talked about I'm sure most of you know about the potential industrial clients south of here. We do the building inspection for almost all of those outer rings in West Des Moines and all the data centers that go there. Every one of those data center folks, they hired us to have a building inspector on site 24/7. Because when they need an inspection, they don't want to wait 2 days. They want it inspected right there. And with the opportunities that we have in the area that you guys have, I would suspect they're going to want the same thing.
And to keep in mind, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
It will take him 3, if not 5 years to get all of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and it's just gaining knowledge, on-the-job training.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen overnight. You don't go to a building inspection school and then walk out and capture a job.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of, like anything that we all do, there's things to be learned. You're there on your own a lot of times, working with contractors to try to get this stuff passed and meet the building codes that you guys have all adopted.
And this wouldn't, we would work in tandem to where it doesn't affect Jake's work schedule
Right.
or our work schedule, because we
Right.
still need Brennan here
Absolutely.
to be able to do the public works.
And we need Jake too.
Right.
And so, this is one of these things, I probably wouldn't do this for very many people. But since we work with you on so many other different levels, it just makes sense to be able to help you out. In full disclosure, we would not be able to be your long-term building inspector. Like I said, I just don't think it's enough work for us to have somebody full-time to do that. But, much like if you had a water operator, wastewater operator go down, we have those folks too. We do that periodically for clients just to kind of bridge you through a period of time. We'll be the licensed operator, but it's not a good long-term service for us. This would be the same kind of arrangement. So something to think about, an option going forward. There's a business case for it, out there, I'm sure, and that's probably run those numbers. Doesn't work for a non-growing community. You guys are not that, so.
Any questions for Steve at this time?
So, if we want to revisit it anytime, and I can ask Jason's, our department head, to come tell you a little bit more, but he and I met pretty extensively and how he thought. And that's kind of how we agreed, so, but we'd be open to any other discussion, any other arrangement.
I guess I have one question. Because you have 8 or 9, you
Yep.
said, if something happened to Jake and he couldn't complete the mentoring and the apprenticing, do you feel like you could still backfill in that
Yep.
role for more time?
Yeah, that's probably,
Somebody
there's an
else.
advantage there. It's just we have that bench to be able to do that for short periods of time. They may pull people from Des Moines. I may have to, and that's okay. But you guys are a good client. It's not something, like I said, I do for anybody because it wouldn't make sense for us. But that absolutely we'd help you with.
I appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. I'm curious for the next one.
Yeah, I know, have a seat.
What's popcorn?
Thank you. All right. out-of-city utility rate discussion. Got to have this back on the agenda. Don't want it to just kind of fall away. You know, we've talked about this a lot. I asked her to kind of put some numbers together so we had something to look at. Hope everyone's had a chance to kind of at least get the once over on it. I guess my initial take on, after looking at these numbers, is an 84-year payback at current rates. I don't think there's any industry, any job, any prospect that you say 84-year payback, and that's after the 10 years we've already had, that you say, yeah, let's do that. So my concern and my thoughts is, as keepers of the city at this point, this is a financial responsibility of ours to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible for the citizens of Piasta. And that's why I think it's important to discuss and possibly look at changing what the rates are. There, discussion is open.
My question on this spreadsheet that's here is, if the information is here, I apologize, I don't follow it. So let's just take line item, whatever. 12, 147, 299, 50 cents. What's that for?
Let me get there. Can you open it up on the big screen too, Marcy?
Oh, sure, yep. Is it under administrative?
Mhm. What line was it again? I'm sorry.
12,
12.
147,299.50 cents.
The one above it's for the 10-inch water main.
Right, it's
I
part
was
of
assuming
phase
they were
one.
both for the 10-inch.
What is phase one?
That is the 10-inch water main line to create the boundary for the IWRA, the Iowa Rural
What is
Water
that?
Association. Pardon me?
What is that? What?
Steve, would you like to step in?
Well,
I know there has to be a connection or create that boundary. It's the first one.
Oh, isn't that the one that was, used to be over like Cedar Crest area?
I believe
so
so.
I believe that,
That other tower that's up on the hill.
yeah, that tower that's up there, remember the city of Dubuque kind of getting sideways with the rural water there. I think it actually went to court. At that point, everyone was trying to throw a flag in the ground as, this is my area for future annexations. Good at that, and in this case, I don't think it went in their favor. So there's this line out there that was between the two that was intended to be the delineation point between, this is ours in the future, this is yours in the future.
So that's what that is?
Yes,
And where does that run?
that runs up Thunder Hills
So
Road.
that's, okay. Then take, for instance, line 20
Okay,
through 23, there's no,
that is all for the sanitary sewer that was installed from Thunder Ridge to the hotel. Everything that's over in column starting. Those are all the costs, the payments that are associated with that project.
so lines 18 through 32 are about the sanitary installation?
Yes. Phases 1 and 2.
I have a different question. I don't want to interrupt John, so
No,
you kind
no,
of
that's fine,
dig
go
in.
ahead, go ahead.
The 150% of city rates that they're paying, we've accrued 200,000 toward the investments we've made. Is that the 50% above the city rates, or is that the whole 100?
It's about 10,000 a year.
Okay, so that's their increment. Their
Correct.
increment is giving us 200,000.
Yes,
Okay, and the rest in theory is they're paying for the water they're using.
right.
Second question, I think you answered this with me earlier, but I just want to make sure I understand. There's still, in Thunder Ridge Estates, they still have a functioning water pump, but it's not being used. It's for emergency purposes.
Right,
So any water they have in that reservoir, that well, it's not actively being pumped or used,
correct.
but we use it to backflush our system
We
It's
don't
not-
blend the water.
It's not blended, it
No.
doesn't come back into our water treatment,
No.
it's not usable to Piasta proper.
Correct.
It's not usable to Thunder Ridge Estates proper.
Right, because they don't have a big enough pump, they don't have a large enough tower for the fire suppression. Their tower right now is useless.
I don't think we even knew that when we met with the board members, so that was interesting
And see, this is
information.
why I keep finding more and more information, so this is why we're continuing the discussion.
After it was bought, it never was used again after.
I don't think it was ever operational, was it, Steve?
I don't know if the tower was, the well was used, it's still listed in your system. It's not a good producer, I don't think the water quality is all that awesome, so it just kind of sits counted towards your capacity, but it's not really capacity.
Well, it's counted toward capacity, but we're not using it.
Right.
Right,
And so it's not benefiting Thunder Ridge Estates, that water, or Piasta.
correct.
And I would assume the intent, did we ever discover anything about the intent of the prior city council on the acquisition of the system? Was it the intent to avoid the city of Piasta having to build water towers faster, like the theory was?
You know, there was some discussion, notes that I came across, nothing formalized that said, I think it was in the water study, it might have been in the water study, that they were looking to build a new water tower. And then that's when the discussion was.
The
bringing in-
neighborhood.
Right, but they were going to place that in Kelly Oaks. Does that sound familiar? Because it's in the
Apartment.
2013, yes.
It
In the
does
20
not, no, I was around when that went up, obviously not working for you guys, but I think he found that water tower use and reinstalled it, I believe. Because
The one he's got out there,
the one
Yes.
that's
He
got out
found it
there,
used.
yeah, it's not, it's such a small volume, I think it's maybe 50,000,
never worked.
that really doesn't, it could provide water pressure out there, but the volume, so it's.
That tower was never bought by the city, correct? AJ.
Well, the city bought the entire water
But-
system.
but-
We got it along, we got it as a
It
package
was
deal,
already
with a great,
Yeah.
great package, yeah.
It's sitting there when the city bought the whole.
Yes, in 2015.
Yeah, so even if the city's intent was to benefit from having that water, it never materialized.
I would,
Didn't
I would
accomplish a void.
venture a guess that it was a political gameplay that says if we're providing you water, eventually you'll annex it. That's generally the motivation for these type of situations.
And that is not our intent. To,
Right.
looking at these rates.
Right, it's not to force that. We said that to their board members.
Yeah.
I just want to make that very clear.
So I also understood, Annette, from the other questions that I had for the meeting. For Thunder Ridge Estates to go back on their own, they would have to re-drill the well, probably deeper. They'd have to invest in a bigger tank and bigger storage. It's a couple $1 million.
Well, yeah, I mean,
For them
they
to-
would have to talk to DNR about the disconnect. There would be a
Yeah.
cost associated with that.
It's $1 to $2 million minimum, and it's their own DNR processes, their own water testing, and completely independent water service.
And I would tell you, I was talking to Annette about this earlier, maybe last week. The bigger issue is sewer. They could do water, probably for less than 2 million. I mean, there's different ways to provide pressure and storage if they're not providing fire suppression. But that water's got to go someplace, and that's a bigger issue to provide wastewater treatment.
Okay,
You'd all need your own system.
What's that?
They'd all need their own system, or they would have to
They'd have
have
to
a
build,
communal.
they'd have to build their own
Plant,
system.
yeah.
Yeah, right now it's a lift station that pumps to you guys, and it's I'm assuming part of the water bill tied together.
I thought they were on sewer with the city longer than water,
They have been,
like
yes.
10 years longer, right?
Yes, in
Was
fact, we do
part of
have a
what's-
28E agreement with them that expires in 2029. That was a 25-year agreement, so 2004
It
is when they
specifies we'd
connected.
be their sewage treatment provider for 25 years,
Mhm.
then that has to get relooked at.
Right, or according to Doug Herman, we don't need a 28E agreement.
To just
That's
provide them
his-
services.
Correct.
Does it protect us somehow, having that agreement?
Just says who's responsible
This
for
is
what.
who's responsible for what?
Exactly. It just outlines who's responsible
Specifies
for what.
duties.
And we all know that we're responsible for everything that is involved in that water and the sewer. As far as the treatment, the testing.
That agreement doesn't benefit the city at all,
No,
minus the fact that they're not even paying enough to get our money back.
not even the money, getting the money back, it's what if something happens to the city's
Well,
got.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's all, I mean, it's all of that. It's both.
It's the investment and the upkeep.
What if, you know, if the original investment could have been paid off or somehow set up so it was paid off in 30.
So what if-
That's a little
what if
more.
Instead of raising rates up front,
Okay.
you come to an agreement, whatever that agreement looks like, that when and if something happens, everybody's assessed. Is that something that can be done?
Sure,
I don't know if it's feasible, I just,
but that too would have to be in an agreement.
Then, it would have to be an agreement that, you know, both sides agree to, and then, you know, that takes care of what Jeff's bringing up, is if there is something going on. But then, again, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, that there's not enough money coming in for
Yeah.
what we invest as a city. Yes or no?
right, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, we could
So,
do
but
it.
that doesn't address that.
Yeah, we'd
I mean,
still,
is it a
we still have an
two-part agreement
84-year payback on what we already done.
You know, the bigger
That's what
issue
we
is
do
if
with
we have
the
something
appreciation.
catastrophic happen, we're responsible for it. We're gonna have to issue debt.
Mhm.
And therefore, it's, you know, it's on the backs of our taxes.
City.
What your
Not
problem
if,
with the assessing is how do
Yeah.
you assess if they don't pay? Because we have no way, there's no, the city can't go after them, they're not part of the city, we
Legal
can't.
document you can put out there to the homeowners.
Would have to be the homeowners association with the city, and they'd have to bind
They'd
their
have to go
homeowners
after-
association residents to their agreement.
Yeah, they'd have to hold their
Current
residents
and
liable.
They'd probably have to get, additional signatures to make sure that agreement.
How many homes are over there?
We have 153 accounts. I don't know how many homes do we have.
It was,
That was like 140.
there was an estimate in the
140.
IAW report.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, Marcy she hit the nail right on the head. That's a huge assessment.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Oh,
it'd be gigantic.
Right,
You're really gambling whether that's not gonna happen, or
Right.
agree to.
but that is an option.
You have a two.
Nobody would be able to sell their
$2 million
homes.
issue.
Hmm?
Assess on
Yep.
50.
Nobody would be able to sell their homes because those
There'd be a
assessments
lien.
are liens on the property and they have to be paid off before they can sell the home. So that
Depends on
would be,
what,
Right.
I mean, if
I mean,
you.
we're talking like I've seen them 5, 10, 20,000, but not 100,000 or hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Water
What are you
main
guys
cracks.
talking
Well, I'm just saying, okay, just saying what an assessment would look like. So if you had a $2 million property, $2 million issue,
By 150.
divided by 150, it's like $13,000.
Still a chunk of change.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But I think that's something that the association would have to have on hand, almost. Or have a way to get that amount of money, so we don't have to.
Yeah,
Come
they'd have to.
on,
We
I
could,
mean, these are the conversations we could be having.
yeah, as a part of the agreement, we could ask them to begin accruing toward that, right? But it's homeowner association money. We're asking them to accrue it. That kind of a thing, catastrophic failure that we assess them for.
And
Decide how they want to
we haven't seen it, but the last communication with them towards the city was that they have been talking to their lawyer and want to sit down, and they wanted to sit down with just Annette and myself and then discuss that with what their lawyer is proposing. And then I start thinking, if you're gonna have your lawyer, then our lawyer's gonna.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's taken a turn, but I don't feel we've had any progress when we've had discussions with them in 2 years. Does anyone feel, well, I'm being conservative and saying 2 years, that we've made any progress on anything in 2 years of them feeling like there's any obligation on their part? They just kind of throw up their hands and say, this is what the city gave us, and that's what we want to stay on.
Mhm.
I felt like that last discussion we had was reasonable, it was open, but they were asking for data. So they're asking for us transparency on data of what we've invested.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to share
Yeah, my
this.
question is, we haven't given that to them yet, right?
No,
We have
because
this-
I wanted to share it
Right.
with you first.
So I mean,
have
that, to me, that's a reasonable next step, is okay, here's our data. That informs the big numbers we were just throwing around.
Right.
And I asked you about the percentages, I think the 10% estimates are probably as conservative as you could
Yeah.
get in terms of impact to TRE. But I think we should have that step, share our data with them, and then have the next conversation of your options are stay on our water and we have to recoup investment We have to, somehow mitigate future risk. Take it back yourself, talk about what that looks like, agree to annexation. I mean, I don't know, there's probably 3 or 4 different things, but it's like any decision maker, us being City of Piasta being one, we're only as good as our next best option. So what options do we have? We've invested $1 million. It's a long payback. There's risk with system replacement. Those are all real that we have to guard. We have to, unfortunately, or fortunately, we guard the City of Piasta taxpayers. So if they want to be City of Piasta taxpayers, then they're part of the long-term equation. Is the other part.
Yeah.
But I think the important part is continuing the conversations, because I mean,
Yeah, let's not-
we haven't had much progress in 2 years. Right. But how many conversations have we had? 2, 3, 4?
Maybe 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not really
And
continuing.
they've been more
conversation.
on the annexation discussion, not on the.
But that's not really continuing conversations. We have one every 6 months.
I think we start pushing the issue.
Yeah, maybe we get this information and kind of dial it in. Okay, this is the day.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy. I'll go ahead and be a little bit more descriptive on the column side where there's
Yes.
blanks.
Yeah.
Fill it all in.
Because if I was thinking it, I mean, someone else had been thinking it. Because that's dumb.
I'm sorry, what?
Sounds be fun.
Okay.
It seems like some of the data you provided us in the subsequent information too about how much water their system produces, how much they need
Right.
for their own use, and then for fire suppression, which I'm assuming is a city requirement, right? Like if they were a homeowners association, do they have to provide
They
pressure?
don't have to, there's not a requirement, but somebody covers them. The fire department comes from someplace, right? So
They have to have a
They
tank.
bring a water truck then, right? They bring a tanker truck.
like any other rural home,
It burns to the ground. Yeah.
their insurance rates will change. I mean,
Oh.
They're getting a fire rating.
They're getting a fire rating.
Yeah.
I remember that map is really.
That's a
Yeah,
benefit
firefighters are very careful.
to the cost.
Yes.
And they don't have a tank, so it'd still be our
It's
tank.
their funding, right?
You know,
Oh, yeah, even it's all cut.
this is common in Western
It's never
Iowa
only
with
done
rural
well.
water systems out there where they just have these sometimes unincorporated communities or small communities.
Yeah.
They hook up to these rural water entities. So they're not part of the governmental entity, but they're buying private water. In a way, that's what's happening here. And a lot of communities regret doing that because they don't control the rates for all of the reasons. There's an upkeep to this system that somebody has to pay for. And all of a sudden when there's not that many people to spread it out over, it becomes just a burden that can't be overcome, which is why a lot of folks either will try to do their own to have the control, or they'll annex in to get the benefit of spreading it out over 4,000 people or
Yeah.
3,000 users versus 153. And it's a tough spot. I understand that. And most of the folks there, when they made this connection, they didn't see this being an issue for them. It's just the city's gonna give us water because in America, we believe water's free. And I don't know why. But that's what happens. And then the reality sets in that a well costs $1 million, a tower costs $4 million, a broken water main costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and someone's got to pay for it. You know, and I think it's to their advantage and yours that you're discussing this before that problem comes about, because the worst case is the water main that serves them breaks and 153 homes don't have water because we're wondering who the hell's gonna pay for it. You guys aren't part of the city. And everyone assumes because you're government that you're gonna come fix it. But then the residents of Piasta pay for it, not the residents of Thunder
But
Ridge.
practically today, we would have to go fix it.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we're there, right?
Yeah, and you talk about the assessments, you know, you have the option, I'm assuming in that agreement, to turn off people's water if they don't pay the bill or they were to not pay an assessment. But if you're talking a $13,000 or $25,000 assessment, there might be a lot of people who just walk away from it. Say, my house is gonna sit here empty because I'm not gonna pay for it. Now, probably not in that neighborhood, but you know, that's a reality. It happens sometimes.
So now, do we have, you said we have an agreement on the sewer, not the water.
We do.
So if we have a water main break, are we obligated to fix it?
We are, because we bought their water
We bought
system.
it. We made their system part of ours. It's our system.
It's ours.
And not that we would want to not fix it.
Yeah, we're not,
Yeah.
this isn't a discussion about how to, us against them.
Right. Well, I think that's by having the conversations.
Yeah.
you know, I think the last time we learned that if we would have maybe started having conversations about this earlier instead of just coming in and saying, we want to do this, I think that it would have been met with not open arms, but not cross arms, not cross arms.
I think we're in a place where both parties are trying to have a mutual understanding of the actual, right? The actual situation, where are we at, what are the alternatives to each group, and then.
I think the most-
Before it's an emergency.
Right.
Right, and I think the most frustrating part for me is the more I dig, the more I find.
Sure.
And, you know, then you're coming back later and saying, well, shoot, I found another $500,000 here, or I found, you know, a note tucked in a file that was signed by an HOA president at the time and, you know, one of our past mayors perhaps, and those are the things that get you in trouble. So I think, I feel confident now that I have everything. But I definitely wanted you all to view it before I send it off to them.
And how long have we been trying to recoup this?
2013. 2013,
11
2014.
years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And we've recruited 200 grand.
The next step is to continue the conversation with them.
Yeah.
I have another conceptual question, and if it's not the right time to have it, we can have this at a future workstation. Yeah, it's just a discussion. But so contemplating the idea of a 28E, and at least the last time we offered them one, we offered, hey, if you sign this pre-annexation agreement, it's not binding on you to annex, then we'll guarantee a rate of XYZ. One of the questions I asked myself on that is, well, we still haven't solved our investment recoupment problem if we do that. And there's no guarantee that they'll ever annex. So I'm not sure what that gets us.
That
But
was,
there was a time frame.
yeah, there's like a 5-year time
Yeah, there was a
frame. I think that we
time
had a
And then
sliding.
after that, it'd go back.
It was like, yeah, 5-year sliding on the property taxes, and then it would go back to,
But I also think that the annexation, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know if the annexation is I think they feel they're able to hold that we want them annexed. And I don't necessarily know if we took a straw poll right now, if it would pass.
don't-
I think when we had that discussion,
We made it very clear.
They really.
we made it clear to them that day that we were not interested in
Okay.
annexing them in.
I mean, it's probably.
And at this point, probably for anyone that's on this council,
Yeah.
unless somebody's got long-term goals, but. Yeah, I don't,
The street system would be a nightmare.
yeah, the amount of.
It doesn't
work we'd have
benefit
to
us in
do.
any way.
We don't, and we don't have the people to cover it, and we don't have, there's just,
yeah, I can't
It's just a-
afford to hire staff.
you know, and there's no way of gauging when that would be
Would happen.
feasible.
So the only thing that does get us is it gets us additional taxpayers bearing the, contributing to the burden of the whole thing. But.
And adding
It
to the
gives us a
burden,
little bit more
and
tax.
burden
Adding
of
to the
whole-
burden.
Of the whole thing.
as well as adding.
Might have been.
So I mean, I think it's
Might have
good.
used
We're not motivated to have them annex. They don't appear
Right.
motivated.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But I think the conversations you have, you listen to them talk, because that's their
Oh, yeah,
carrot.
They want us, but yeah, I think if it was clear to them.
The people that have always, they call me, so we guys, we don't want to be annexed. So I'm like, well, we don't necessarily know if we want to annex you.
We just need to
We
pay
don't
for the
want
water
you.
system.
Well, I mean, it's not me, it's you.
It's not, yeah, it's not me, yeah, it's you, it's definitely.
You know what I mean? It's just a mutual conversation to have.
All right, let's,
Good.
action plan here is, Annette is gonna clean up this spreadsheet and get that to the HOA, to Jeff Corkery. Next would also be, or anything in addition to that, that we wanna get to them right now. We wanna start making them, more aware that what we're looking for is some, a faster or larger return. Faster return on the original investment, some assurances of how catastrophic events are gonna be handled.
I don't even know if you.
Do we want all of that is my
I
question.
don't think you want to mention the faster return on the investment, because I think that is secondary to let's build up a fund so we can stop something catastrophic.
And I mean, also, do we want to be the people that gives them, it's gonna cost you X to disconnect, it's gonna cost you X to do?
No,
I think
no,
that's
They
up
can
to
study
them.
it.
That would be up to them.
Yeah,
They can
they
study
can do their
it.
own
We can
research
just
on
say,
that.
That's an alternative. If you want to disconnect, then you can do that
That's-
research.
I don't think that's where we're at, because I don't think we want to be like, yeah, well, if we disconnect you, this is what it's gonna cost you.
No, no, no,
We
I,
don't
We don't
want
want to be
that.
adversarial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying
We're trying to be.
We just know that
Partners.
it costs something.
So the other question
Okay,
is, I listened into the call, conversation we had here with them, there was someone, I forget the gentleman's name, but there was two different ways of looking at how the money was being recouped. We were saying it's only being recouped through the 50%.
Right.
One of the gentlemen was saying that it's, well, I pay whatever the amount is, $200 a month, all that should be credited to them.
Yeah, that's some of what we pay in water
And I,
rates
and I,
is
and I,
going
and
toward
I don't know
capital.
what the right answer is.
Yeah.
But how do we
Factor that.
Address that.
address that? Because that's their stance, is that,
Sure.
you know, I pay $200 a month.
Some
based on
portion of the 100%
that's
goes
12
toward
months times
capital
I've lived there for
reinvestment.
10 years, I actually paid this. So they're factoring the 100, all 150%, but we're factoring the 50%.
Right. Well, you have to think about the basic connection fees for water, sewer, and garbage. They have to pay the flat rate just like everybody else does.
Sure, so that's
So
the
if they
one
get
time.
that 50% added on each one of those, and that's where we should be putting, and we've discussed about creating a GL account and putting it there.
Right.
That's how that's broke down.
I get that, but I'm saying that there's a perception on their side that all that money should be going.
How they're
towards that.
approaching the
That
100
we
versus
make
the
money
150.
off of the sewer and water.
Right, right, and so, and I'm not saying their view is correct or what, I'm just saying it's that their
There's- it's a
perspective, their
factor.
perception. And their perception is a reality,
One of them
First
brought up-
100% though is just going to the same place that it is for all the residents.
and that's fine.
So and I think that's where you just go back and show them the budget, like here's where
We just need to.
we already have debt that we've incurred for this.
Yeah.
We have
We're not making money.
these
on
expenses, we have to pay
these things.
wages, we have, you know, all of these things. So that's the bare
Yeah,
minimum.
a portion of that
to cover
100% is
everything.
going to debt repayment, future capitalization in theory. If you ever got your debt paid off before you had to make major investments, then you'd have a portion of that was going toward future capitalization.
Probably, we
Yeah.
probably show it by height.
I'd offer that you don't need to justify what that other 50% goes to. I mean, to every other resident, you're contributing to the city in many different ways. We're charging you a premium because you're choosing not to. What we choose to do with that premium is our call. It happens all the time. I mean, not specifically to this, but people charge different customers different rates because of different things. They're a different customer. They're not choosing to pay taxes. They're not choosing to be other things. And I think to treat their system as a standalone business is very hard because you're producing water, you're storing water. And you can't carve that out for what portion of that is just for them. Because there's this overall benefit. And, you know, you have industry that's a bigger demand. You charge them differently, right? Is there a different industry rate?
There is.
Right? So there's a precedent right there. There's a different customer getting charged a different rate for a reason. So you have it within your own system. But if I'm them, I'm making that exact point, John.
Well, that's what I'm you try to attack this,
Trying to be fair, yeah.
you try to attack this not adversarially,
Yeah.
as a partnership.
Yeah.
And, you know, you try to tear down the
Yeah,
issues.
so I think it's easy to identify the capital cost of the infrastructure. I think you can't apportion the operating costs to them because that's very different than the capital cost, which is part of that premium is
Part of
going
that,
towards the
Paying
operation.
the operations, right?
So what did you have that you were, what do you have written that you're going to, I just want to make sure everybody hears what we're doing.
It's my grocery list, but
Great. I am out of cilantro.
I'm gonna take the spreadsheet, clean it up, be more descriptive. And then I can work with Marcy on breaking down the accounts to show them, you know, what residential pays, commercial, industrial. Give them some budgetary numbers to show them exactly, maybe we don't wanna get that deep into the woods right now, but I think just giving them that is gonna be actually
Yeah, this-
enough.
This is a piece of
Yeah.
how can you show us what you invested in and how you did it?
And I can let them know that I have the water study here. If they want to come in and make copies of it, we'll make copies of it and they can pay us for the copies.
Preference for future meetings, continue. Since they they requested to just meet with Annette and myself. My preference is that we have a council.
Bring them to a work session, otherwise we can have a work session just on this.
I think if they want to bring a lawyer too, we need to.
I don't,
That's a, yeah.
I think we get this out there and then try to put the feelers out there to say, you guys can come talk to us.
Yeah.
We don't want lawyers involved because nobody's gonna win.
Yeah, let's have another conversation.
Let's just actually have a conversation and figure this out.
This day.
Yeah.
We're seeking mutual understanding so that we can find a path.
Right, right. And I have asked them repeatedly for their comments, their questions, and they will not share them with me. At this point, they came back yesterday and said, listen, we've met at great length with our HOA board and our attorney, and we'd like to sit down with you and the mayor, and it's just Jeff Corkery and another representative from the HOA. And I replied back to him, I was very cordial. And just explained to them that we're continuing to discuss this, and until we can come to a decision, then that would be the time that,
And the council just
we would talk
is
about
open to having them come in for further discussions.
okay, so would you like to have that done at the work session in September?
I would just get this over to them maybe and just see,
We're ready for the next
we
discussion when
wanna
they
have,
are.
we wanna have further discussions, but I mean,
We can have a work session whenever.
Yeah,
I think we gotta set a timeline though of when we wanna have this
Well,
discussion by.
I think
or we're looking at-
you almost need to set a timeline that says, okay, this is gonna end at some point. Here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we wanna work
here's what
with
we're
you.
gonna charge you.
We need to do something and do it sooner, like.
Let's figure this out by the end of the year or fiscal year. Let's do that.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, you gotta have a hard date or they're just gonna keep dragging their
Well,
feet.
I'd just say give them like 10 days to 2 weeks to review this. That's
2
plenty
weeks.
of information, time to
Oh,
do
that
it.
way, yeah. I'm thinking in our heads, what our next step should be.
And then
is
that
like-
puts us close to the end of the month.
Yeah, so what
And
if we say, okay, you guys have until our next work session to review this. You
Next-
guys would
our
like
last
to sit
council
down
meeting
and
of the
talk
month.
to us.
I'd rather have this conversation in work session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
That's more open form.
Yeah.
say of a month.
I mean, that gives them plenty of time.
Because we
to
can
look
create
over
the
and
talk
talk to their
sessions, we
HOA
can create
board.
in the council meeting, we're acting on resolutions.
Okay, so I will put in the information that I send them that they have until our next work session, which will be September,
11th?
that's the council meeting, so 10th,
It'll be the, well,
5th, 6th, I don't know, I have to look.
4th?
fourth,
Okay,
right after Labor Day, 3rd and 4th, Wednesday after Labor Day.
And then-
Do you know the city of Dubuque charges water users that aren't in the corporate limits?
they do, so does Asbury, so does Cascade, so does Dyer.
You know what's that
Can we gather that?
Oh, what, did they charge them? I
What's
don't-
their,
225.
I mean, cause I bet you Dubuque's
I think it's
higher because
200.
they strictly use that as an annexation leverage too,
Right.
so. It's not uncommon.
No, and it's not, the community I came from was 300%. And that didn't
No, yeah,
seem,
no.
because people just didn't want to annex it.
Socialist.
That's Illinois, that don't
Illinois.
They don't need money, they got.
You don't cross
they got-
that.
Illinois, they're- That's the way I feel about it. Sorry.
But anyway, it's not uncommon to charge 150. It's not uncommon for 250, 300.
Is it helpful to us to see what other communities are doing, or does it even really matter? We know what our costs are. We know what
Really
our.
matters.
I don't think it matters. I think if they wanted to do that research and bring it in, then they're gonna realize
Inform
that,
us,
oh,
yeah.
wait, we're actually you're not getting charged as much
If
as.
they think it's informational, we can say, go see what you find. We're happy to look at it with you.
Yeah, some of it's gotta be on their, under their dollar to figure it out.
All right, good. That's good for that discussion. Last item is to review goals.
We have none.
Oh, I heard some excitement over there.
Kelly Oaks Park, get it done. Goal
Okay.
1.
This is the last fourth review of the goal setting that we did last July, so we will be wrapping it up. Just want your feedback on this. I think that we're on track for the most part. We will be starting the budget process next month, and we will be setting some money aside for goal setting and strategic planning July of next year. Steve, you can go.
I think
So close to the end.
We all feel that
I
way.
made it in the whole meeting, and now you're gonna kick me out.
Right, yeah, right. But I mean, unless the unwritten agenda items talk about Steve, item number F, I mean, then
Oh, yes.
Now, we have the one goal on there that's the frontage road from Cottingham to Y21. I guess our next step on that's the Adrena extension, right? To talk to NICC. Is that still on? Like, we're gonna go back to
I believe
their
that's.
board at some point? Now
She
that
hasn't
they're,
she hasn't gotten back to me yet, and I think they're still struggling with not having announced a
Thing.
new president yet. When we've met with them before and you've been in those meetings, they were very open. Steve, you were there. Glad you're here. I mean, they're very open to doing it.
Yeah, I think our move is to just try to get a commitment from them and be nice to secure the right of way so that we have permission, should the board change, we have secured the ability to do that.
I happen to remember when they,
It's every 3 months. I want to say it was September was the next time it was going to be in Piasta, and then maybe it was December again.
I think we had a conflict with
We
September.
did, yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably December then. So I don't see that discussion going south. Sorry for the pun.
one. I guess the only other comment I'd make on it, I think we're gonna get part of the sidewalk, you know, the school safety. Are there any other sidewalk / trails needs in the city related to getting kids from the neighborhoods to their schools that we didn't
I think there's
accomplish?
been more of a discussion right now to continue from Seton to Kelly Oaks Park.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
That's not getting kids to school, but I totally
I
agree with
understand that.
I wish we
So
would
it's
actually
getting-
get that off in this run.
It's
I
getting
think we
kids
could
to
have
the park.
afforded it.
Yeah,
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 be
they're,
the next safety.
Yeah, other than the Kelly Oaks Park Spur, is there any other in the city where we have kids in a neighborhood that they don't have a continuous sidewalk from their neighborhood to the school?
I mean, there's,
Folks,
yeah.
and if you get.
Every subdivision.
I was actually just gonna say,
Neighborhood
every subdivision
doesn't
From
have.
doesn't have sidewalks.
From the major artery to school,
Correct.
you have.
So I mean, you could even go from Teagan with all those new housing development to
You
add
gotta walk
that
up the
down
street. Yeah.
to
That would probably be
Ginger.
the next one, I would think, because there's,
yeah.
because there's.
I mean,
no
that's the only one I
sidewalk
can think of, like,
Yeah, you have
other
to walk
than
the-
subdivisions, yeah.
Teagan,
Yeah, Teagan to Ginger.
Yeah,
Oh, so that
yeah.
side of Piazza Street.
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
have-
a lot of
You see
people
a
walk
lot of-
over there
I was
on
gonna
that.
say,
Yeah,
you see
there's
a lot of people
they do.
walking.
Ride bikes.
Does that have the
I was
fence on
fan
it?
tracks.
Yeah, that's the one with the fence along it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be a challenging construction, given the topography, and given what's going on with the county. Interesting you bringing that up. It might be the time to at least grade for the sidewalk, because we're gonna be doing an overlay. and
That's a good
redoing
idea.
like
In the
80
spring,
years.
yeah.
Actually, very.
It's a good idea. I think we have to
We're
keep
even
that
doing
in
it.
front of us.
thanks for
Right away.
staying again, Steve.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
IMF.
F Steve. Oh,
How does everybody feel about that? I mean, the sidewalk, the rest of the way to Kelly Oaks, I think that could be a priority for us. Like next year to try to finish it.
We're really hoping that we come in under budget and be able to,
Spend some of that.
Complete
on
Well, that'd be great. We can get the current construction to the same
What's the
unit
timeframe
prices
on
or
that?
something and do it.
the multi-use
the one
trail,
right now.
November.
November, yeah, November 1st,
It has to be done
November
by
30, I
All-
think.
It's all
yeah.
sprayed out.
December.
Yeah, I think it's all dependent on when the asphalt
No,
plant's
No,
closed.
absolutely not.
No,
I think it helps solidify the finishing and opening of the park,
Yeah.
that people can actually get there.
Get to it.
100%.
From
Yeah, I
the
think
town,
that's important.
you know?
Yeah, you really got into
It's
sidewalk.
kind of a thing, you know? Well, I can't really get there, but it's nice.
Send your kids, but have them run down the street to get
Yeah.
there.
Don't worry.
Go down the Cox
Don't worry,
Street.
that traffic
Make
on
sure they look
Cox Springs
both
is
ways.
Very.
People drive so slow on Cox Springs down.
Yeah, especially once you get over that hill too. It's like-
Yeah.
Careful of crew. The question then I have is, do we want to start looking at setting a new date for another goal setting session?
I just mentioned that not right before when I was talking.
What do you say in July?
Yeah, well, we're
Next
gonna be
year?
starting the budget next month, so we'll put aside some money for the goal setting and strategic planning for July of next year. So that way we'll keep right on target.
I don't know what I think I was scrolling, so,
Yeah, we should pay attention.
yeah, well, maybe you should be mayor.
No.
Community center parking lot,
Yes.
that was in our givens.
Oh, yeah, there's-
We didn't prioritize it because we thought it was already gonna happen, but
Yeah.
we don't have it funded, right?
No. we
So
do
that's
not.
gotta get back into the pile for
Yeah.
planning. Okay.
And that's something that, we can go ahead and maybe we'll get lucky and find some money again. I don't think we're gonna be lucky.
I don't think it was luck. I think it was some hard work on some people's part.
Yeah, well, anyway, but that is something that we're gonna have to look at, either start putting reserve money back more into the reserve counts for the community center and start building that up, because that is gonna be quite costly.
All right.
Some great stuff.
When is that road slated to be open?
When do you get back?
Are you talking about Adrena?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people. ask.
Yeah,
Steve?
Finally.
I'm thinking Dina will open it, and this is just a
August.
I
educated
actually-
guess, next week, because it has to be open for our fun run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna think in the next week, he's on vacation this week, but I'm thinking probably next week sometime, if not the week after that, but it's gonna be open before
Don't you
that.
still?
Very common
He
question.
is
We did
waiting,
our walkthrough and it's clear to open. We'd like to have it striped before it did it, but it wouldn't be necessary.
but Dean is waiting for some as-built,
Yeah.
I believe, and that's what's keeping it.
Yes, yes.
As-built.
So
Did
they-
it come out right?
Diagrams?
Yep,
I was
very
like,
good.
which
Yeah,
is-
sorry.
That's a new word for me.
Custom drawings.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of new words with my
New word.
Invisaligns.
Nobody knows what they are because we don't understand it.
Don't say it, Mike.
I just did, you didn't hear.
No. Don't say it.
Don't say it. Say it, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think I'm just getting started. I don't know, let's ask Steve. Steve, do you feel like you're done?
I do.
All right, well, we appreciate all of your input
Thanks,
tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Always over and above.
All right, my best.
Yeah.
All right.
We are out.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Reminders that work sessions are now on the Wednesday
Wednesday.
before the second Tuesday. The next one is September 4th.
I just want Jeff to
Now.
come tell me
That'll be a fun
everything.
chunk to roll.
Before he leaves,
length
this is
and-
I know. I just can't wait to get Chauncey on that first one, when he goes through that road.
Me?
And then I go.
I'm gonna behave.
Nothing.
I like
Fine, you wanna